Hello and welcome, everyone. We're going to wait a couple moments as everyone starts coming in from the waiting room, but we are really excited to have you here today for our latest Career Coach series, which is Who Are Your Mentors, Champions, and Sponsors? So again, extending a really big welcome out to everybody who's joining us here today. My name is Alexia Brewster. I'm a program manager here at Forte. I work with the professional programs team. So we're really, again, excited to deliver this content to you about who are your mentors, your champions, and your sponsors, because it's important that people understand the difference between the three and how they can activate your career. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce our featured speaker today. So it's Diane Fennig. We're really excited to have her. She does a lot of our career coaches, pretty much all of them. And she has over 25 years of career development and management experience. So again, we're just really excited to have her here to just talk about this topic and then answer any questions that you may have. And as she's going through her presentation, if you do have questions, please feel free to put that in the Q&A box, and then I'll make sure to read them out loud for her to answer for you. So with that, I'm actually going to have Diane take it away.
All right, I'll take over my screen, share the screen. Here we go. All right, I love handling this lions and tigers and bears. Oh no, because sometimes I feel like that's what it is. All right, so to everybody in the audience, we're going to really figure out all three of these important features, and you need all three. And this is your team, although there's only two women on this in this photo. We need all three. So first of all, I'm going to give you some definitions. Then I'm going to dig in more about what does this look like. So mentors, and I feel like most people think everybody is a mentor. Think of the mentors in your world as people who are boots on the ground, definitely working with you immediately on hire or immediately in transition to a new role. They help you fill in the gaps. There really should be short term, although some mentors want to keep staying with you because they want to keep giving you feedback. Sometimes you don't need all of that. But mentors should be early career and early new job or early new responsibility, not necessarily or when I say early career, they should last your whole career. So let's always want to make sure people know this. But these, again, people boots on the ground, wanting to help you, and they have a very vested interest in you doing good work because you're helping them when you fill this new job. So that's a mentor. Initially, this could be someone from the team that you report through in kind of your team. One of your teammates might be a senior teammate, and they, even though they report to you, they might become an informal mentor. It might be a peer that's a mentor, and it might be your boss that's a mentor, just for some ideas of who this could be. Then there's champions. Often these are people who really look more like a peer to you. I think of champions as people who, when you run the race that you've been doing this Parkinson's competition, and you've been raising money for Parkinson's. You run this race, and they're the ones on the sideline cheering you on. They're the ones that come back after you finish the race and talk about what you've done for fundraising. They make sure the community where you work, they make sure everybody knows about what you've done. This is, again, proactive, it's promotable, it's good stuff, but it's sideline work. It is not usually, work that's going to help you move to the next step at it real formally. This is going to be kind of sideline work, but they're going to be there saying, great job, really appreciate what you did. You made a difference this weekend. Those are people who are your champions. Then, third but not least, are your sponsors. Sponsors are people who will nominate you, who will stick their neck out and take action. They might offer a connection for you. Sponsors tend to be, they could be your boss. Sometimes, though, they're not your boss because your boss doesn't want you to move forward. So they might not be your sponsors. Sponsors tend to be, though, at the same peer level of your supervisor. Sponsors do something that's really important, and I absolutely love this. Choose people who will say your name in a room full of opportunities. So sponsors might be gathered. So there might be a leadership kind of retreat at your organization. And as they're gathering, they're looking at the high pro list for your organization. A sponsor, your sponsor, would say two things I've observed in this list that was shared. Number one, it's outdated because the first top three people on this list aren't even at the organization anymore. And number two, I think this list is missing some people because I'd like to nominate Danita, and her name's not even on this list. So I think we need to go back and do some digging to make sure we really know who our current high pros are. That's what a sponsor is willing to do. The sponsor is willing to really step out there and say, we're missing some people, and they're putting their neck out on the line for you. There's a spectrum in this work: mentor, strategizer, door opener, opportunity giver, advocate. There's lots of different names for all of these things. But the more someone's willing to invest in you, that's closer to sponsorship. Mentorship, I want to make sure you're doing your job well on this end. Sponsorship on the other end is really advocating for you and your career moving forward. Sponsors are absolutely the hardest to find and the hardest to foster. One thing that I'm seeing more and more of is people are over mentored and under sponsored. So they're coming to me and they're saying, Diane, I feel like I've got 15 mentors. And I'm going, 15? That's way too many. 15 people that are telling them what to do. I'm like, but what you really need is differentiation between mentors and champions and sponsors, because you're not going to be promoted if you're over mentored. One of the other dangers of being over mentored is many people want you to stay in the box that you were hired in. It's nice and neat, and I'm going to mentor you to be really good at this. Well, that doesn't look forward. That's just looking stagnant at where you were. So I'm always careful when people talk to me about, I really feel like I've got mentorship down. I'm like, okay, how many mentors? Who are they? And are they really helping you move to the next? Or are they keeping you where you are? And all three of these are gifts. Don't get me wrong on that one. All three are gifts. Every now and then, a person with no agenda, no ulterior motive, no self interest will take pleasure in helping you to succeed, grow, and live to your purpose. This person will operate in love, seek no praise, and want nothing in return. This person is a gift. Each of these three can be this gift. Sometimes you just have to move forward from only seeking mentors to finding people who will sponsor you and who will champion your work. All of these people are going to give you feedback. So here's some things to think about when they're and frame when they're giving you feedback. This is the tough stuff. You've got to stay curious. You can't be defensive across all three of these. As people give you feedback, be and remain curious. Listen. And one of the things I like to do when someone's giving me feedback is I like to write down and take notes of what they're telling me. It's going to come back and I'm going to explain a little bit more about why this is important. First of all, it helps me to listen better when I'm taking notes. I'm paying different attention when I'm taking notes. It really does help me understand and ask some follow-up questions. But I'm going to come back to why this is also important in the whole scheme of things. You have to be ready when people give you feedback. And executive presence, such an important part of this. You've got to be the professional to take on a critique. And often it's difficult to hear. So one of the pieces of feedback that was offered, that I offered to one of my former managers, she was late to everything. Always late. That was her hallmark. And she said, that's my hallmark. You all know I'm always going to be late. And I gave her some feedback and I said, what I hear and see and feel when you're late is you're disrespecting all of us and only respecting yourself. I said, I don't think you realize how many people roll their eyes when you say, I'm on A time. And I'm like, no, that's not how it works. So you have to be professional and help people understand what it is you're looking to have them change. Really, really important. And then you have to be open because all through your career, you're trying to find your own voice. You've got to be open to what you've heard and figure out, all right, what part of this, what nuggets are things I'm going to hold on to? And what nuggets am I going to get more clarity on from the people who've given you these nuggets? Because there are going to be lots of them. Back to the equation of writing things down. The communication equation is 7%, 38%, and 55%. But most people don't understand what's the difference in all of these things. 7% is the words we use. 38% is the tone we use. 55% of our language is our body language. So when you go back to my comment earlier to write down when people are giving you feedback, pay attention to the words, but then reflect on what was their spirit? What was their tone as they delivered that to me? And what kind of body language did I get? And then with that, if you say, wait a second, I heard them saying this, but their body language said they were being a microphone for someone else. Then you can go back and say, I heard you give me that feedback, but I wondered if that feedback was really from you or if it was something that you were supposed to deliver to me. So it's really important to really pay attention to what kind of exchange that was when you were receiving feedback. People always ask, all right, what do I do and how do I get people talking about so many of these things? And I'm always out there looking for a resource for you. And this is a great colleague of mine who wrote this book. It's the Organizational Politics Playbook. It is 50 vignettes of different places and different ways to navigate work. And I've seen people use this book in a lot of different ways, but one of my favorites was when people have created like a book club and discussed different strategies in their book club over lunch with some colleagues. I've seen managers, you work with your manager on this, saying, all right, here's the issue. Here's how I think we'd solve it. But in this culture, it doesn't seem like that would work well. How would you help me solve this problem here at this culture, given the fact that my instinct doesn't seem like it would be right here? I learn a lot about you when you're willing to say, this just doesn't seem to fit right here. What kind of feedback can you give me? That person's going to think differently of you if you come for that kind of feedback. And managing your team, helping them navigate this, because there's really not a book written. It's the unwritten rules of how we work and where we work. How do you help people understand how to do it better? You will be viewed very positively if you're working with the team below you to help them navigate work. I promise you, people will notice. People will notice that you're worried about your team and you're worried about your peer team, as well as the leadership team above. You got to really manage all three of them. In fact, that's the discussion topic for next month. It's all about finding your voice, and that's what our careers are all about. But you're going to find your voice through other people's voices about what you're doing well, what needs improvement, what you might tweak, what might have worked years ago but doesn't work today. We've got to keep up. And goodness, the world of work certainly has changed in the last few years. Sometimes for the better, sometimes not. But really, your whole path in finding mentors, champions, and sponsors is helping you find your voice and kind of who you are in your profession. So, with that, I am done. I'm going to leave my voice one back on. I'm going to go to previous, leave that back up. And let's see what kind of questions we've got. Otherwise, I always start with, thinking about different things as I make the presentation. So, Alexia, got anything?
Yes, we
Yeah.
actually have
Yeah.
quite a few questions,
All right,
which is
bring 'em on. Let's
exciting.
go.
I'm going to start with the one that I feel like is the most common when people hear these different concepts of like a mentor, a sponsor, a champion. So today you focus really heavily on you really want to find sponsors in your life. And so this person was wondering, how do you ask for sponsorship? So how does that relationship develop in a way that you're wanting it to get to that outcome?
Very good. No, thank you. Great question. So you might come to someone and say, I would like you to be my sponsor. And you're brand new at your work. You're within 6 months of starting. I might come back to you and say, Alexia, let's give work a little bit more time. I need to see more of your work for me to really sponsor your work. I haven't heard a lot about your work yet. I need some of that to move to help you in that role. I'm saying no right now, but I want you to come back and find me in a couple more months. And then let's see if that makes more sense for me to sponsor some of your work. And I might also follow up and say, now that you've been kind of introduced to our world here, what do you see as places where are your gaps? Where do you need, kind of where are the things that you need? Where do you need to learn some new things? And how can I introduce you to some other people that can help you kind of advance that? But don't be offended if someone says, I can't sponsor your work yet. You haven't really seen it. But come back to me and circle back and come back to that person. And before I forget, this is one of my things I wrote down. Look up the podcast with Adam Grant and Carla Harris. Carla Harris loves to talk about sponsorship. It's a podcast. Adam Grant's hosting it, and it's with Carla Harris, and she does a phenomenal job about working toward that sponsorship. So definitely listen to her podcast as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we always encourage if you even in the audience have resources, feel free to drop them in the chat too, so we can keep sharing this knowledge.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of layers to this, and not one size fits all. As far as like this approach might help one person, but it might not help another person. So definitely feel free to share that experience. Just kind of continuing because your answer there actually kind of blew up the Q&A box. So another thing that people are just wanting more clarification on is how do you identify a good sponsor? So when you're looking at the people around you, what are qualities, positions you should be looking for and when you're thinking of that sponsor you want to approach this conversation with?
Great question. Many assume, and what assume is that your manager should be your sponsor. Your manager's a likely suspect to be your sponsor, but some managers want to keep you in your box. You solve a problem for them and they don't want to disturb the cart right now. You're helping them kind of even out the keel of your workplace. So they don't want you going anywhere right now. Look to their peers. If it's not your manager, what do their peers look like? And are any of them some people that you'd like to, kind of have that conversation about sponsorship? And everyone goes, how do you do that with someone who's like at the same level as my boss? And you might say, I've been here 2 years. My boss keeps commending me for the work I'm doing, but I don't see them seeing me in the next role. And I see my next more in the finance space, which is why I'm coming to you to see if you can help me advance my interest in this role and this space. I feel like I've done good work, but I don't feel like anyone's heard about it. So, and again, say no, and you're not being disrespectful to your manager. You're saying, but that I understand why they want me here, but I want to move forward. And it's now been X number of years. But if it's been 2 weeks, I'm going to say, no, that's not enough time. You've got to give it some time. And many are like, I want a promotion in 6 months. I'm like, you're probably not going to see that. But within the first year, if your manager's not talking to you about what's next, you need to start kind of pushing that, saying, here's some things I'd like to do. Or raise your hand for a stretch assignment. And, because you're going to meet lots of new people in a stretch assignment. And if you do that and do it well, those people that you've met across that stretch assignment will become potential new people to be your sponsors. But stretch assignments are hard. I'm not saying it's easy, but
Yeah.
how can you get seen by a lot more people in a different role? I hope
That is great advice. Yeah, I feel like you answered that question perfectly as far as just like different ways that you can approach that conversation and be able to find those people. Someone just really quick. Okay, so they wanted to get the name for the podcast again. So it's Adam Grant and Carla Harris.
correct. Adam Grant, and he's doing what's his podcast called right now? Why is it blanking on me? Rethinking. There we go. His Rethinking podcast, and it's with Carla Harris. Look it up. It's
Yep.
fabulous.
Yeah, so thanks. I just wanted to make sure we got that as well, so people are able to get into that. So kind of moving on a little bit, but still talking about sponsors. So someone was asking, can a single person be more than one, or are you really trying to diversify it? Like, what just kind of like feedback in general, what would you recommend? Or what have you seen work well, what doesn't work well, different things like that?
No, it's a great question. I think your boss can evolve from being a mentor to being a sponsor. That can work that way. So what I just find is too many people have people that really by definition look and feel like mentors, and they haven't really advanced that. And I think the peer team is one of the places where people really miss an opportunity. Because if you're going to drive a change at an organization, your peers have to be on board. They've got to be with you, almost shoulder to shoulder with you. And so many people don't think to really work with that peer team to help people understand strategically why this new idea works for everyone. And so, again, it's a place where I think a lot of people miss things because you don't think about your peers. You think of them as more competitors, but they're not. They're collaborators. And so, how do you kind of advance that? And some of your peers are going to have a different voice in the organization. So they could become more of a sponsor. Even though they're a peer of yours, they have the ear of some different people. And they might say, why is Teresa not on the high pro list? This is a peer. And, as a peer, they're like, I really think she needs to be on the high pro list. And she's not there. Why not? And sometimes that goes back to the manager didn't think you needed to belong there. The manager didn't check the box on that. And so somebody comes back going, we're going to put her on that list because she is somebody we need to look at. Um, and again, getting people's feedback, it does this work. It's always really kind of cringy to say, will you be my mentor? That's a little on the cringy side for many, and it's hard. But it's like, I need some help with this, or I'm trying to fill in this gap. If it's not you, who would you suggest I connect with? And make sure that you really show them what your homework is in the area and what you're trying to learn. And then that interest might again nominate you for a stretch assignment, nominate you for, standing in to do this for someone. And again, puts you in a different profile position in your organization.
Mm. Yeah, that is great advice. Thank you. And kind of expanding a little bit upon that, we do have a couple questions about, so you're having that conversation with someone to make them um, a sponsor, and so there might be a peer of your boss, but you're kind of worried about your boss knowing that you're wanting to go up because they've been like shooting down opportunities or different things like that, or if you're wanting to go into a different sector, but they're kind of wanting you to, as you mentioned, like stay in that box they created for you. Like, how do you navigate that? Because like you can't assume that the person you're wanting to sponsor you won't tell your boss anything. So how
I
do you
would
do?
tell my boss first. Just
Okay.
like, understand I'm solving a problem here, but long term, this is what my goal is. Do you see that as my goal? And if they come back going, no, I need you here. Then you're like, but I really would like to pursue some different things. And so then you get a sense of you'll leave if that person's not going to move you, you're going to leave the organization. And somebody within the
Yep.
organization needs to know, wait, you'll bring all kinds of great content knowledge from here to this role. We want to keep you. So, and helping people know I've had this conversation, it just hasn't gone anywhere. I've raised my hand for stretch assignments. I have not been awarded any of them. So I'm trying to do some of this on my own. because I really like the organization. I believe in the mission. I want to be here. But here's a place I want to, I really realize this is where I want to move my career forward. Because there's really no movement where I am over here. There's no movement here, but there is movement here. Helping
Yeah.
people what you're interested in. Because if you don't say, if you don't speak up, you'll just go somewhere else.
Mhm.
And then people are like, wait a second, how do our high pros all end up the top 3 high pros off the list? They don't work here anymore. That was eye-opening to someone. I'm like, no, it happens all the time. Because people say, if you're not going to listen and you're not going to help me, I'm just going to exit and go somewhere else. And you don't want to lose that talent. We've worked too hard to, help you be kind of a content expert in your area. Why not translate that to another area?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like employees, you have to do what's best for you. And it's unfortunate when it happens when you're not being recognized in the sense of wanting to make that next step. So I'm not surprised to hear that like sometimes top management will be like, wait, what's happening? And it's like, well, we need
Right.
a better communication with that for sure to be able to kind of be able to move into a role that makes the most sense for you.
Mhm.
So thanks for answering, because that one I was also curious about, like, what would the answer be for that situation? Because I think, not everyone has a boss that they 100% click with. So I'm sure that there's some tension with that and just figuring out how do I move forward in my career for sure.
Absolutely.
I do want to do one last final question.
Okay.
So it's a little bit of a pivot, but I think it's really relevant because remote work has increased, especially since the pandemic. And given like your familiarity with this topic, have you noticed there are different strategies you have to use if you do 100% remote work or majority remote work with your organization? If so, how do you approach the whole mentor sponsors champions?
Great. This is such a great question. In fact, that was one of my notes on the bottom that I wrote down too. Um, this is going to be hard to hear because many people are like, oh, I don't want to hear this. I think new people starting out in organizations have done a great service to themselves if they have been in the office some in their transition, because people really want to get to know you. But the problem is you trying to figure out when are other people going to be there so that it can be seen. You don't want to just go there and like on a Friday and no one's there. So a lot of people are really working toward really transparent schedules so that you can know when other people are going to be in the office. So you can, plan meetups or plan meetings face to face instead of using technology like this. Um, I I believe that, this is the world according to Diane. People are doing better if they have some face time in the office. And I'm getting people coming back going, man, I fought it. And now that we're being a little bit more transparent on the schedules and I'm making strategic decisions of when I go to the office and what I do when I'm there, it makes a lot more sense. And someone the other day, I love this. They said, when I go to the office, I don't expect to get any work done. When I go to the office, I expect to be in meetings, be engaged, stop in people's cubes and say hello. It might be a really quick exchange, but I want to be seen and I want to see others. And I said, I do think that's a smart way to think about this. It's hard for me to stick my neck out for someone when I don't know their work and I haven't seen them or I haven't seen them in action. But when I've seen people in action, it's like, I like what they're all about. And so I'm going to suggest a little bit more of that than most people are really ready to do because they want to be 100% remote. If there are opportunities, build those strategically so that you can be seen. But you don't want to also just get there like so that you're just seen that day. Because some people put on the whole thing of I just want to be seen all day long, flipping on my lights and making it look like I've been in my office. One of my colleagues confessed the other day she does that. She leaves her lights on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday in her office so that her colleagues think she's there Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, but she's not. I'm like, now that I was like, I don't know about that. I was like, I think that's a little bit going a little bit too far on that. But just the whole idea of being seen when I see you or when I can stop in and go, how would you handle this? Or bring you into a meeting because you're there. I'd love for your feedback on this. And the final thing, and I really just want to stress this, when people are giving you feedback, and you're going to get some hard feedback from mentors, champions, and sponsors, listen hard. But because they probably rehearsed that feedback to you, don't be ashamed to say, can we circle back? Can we follow back up? I've had some time to think about it. I've got a couple follow-up questions. There is no shame in that because they've rehearsed what they wanted to tell you. Now you've got to really let that sink in so you can go back with follow-up questions. What does this look like for you when you say I don't look like I'm engaged? What does more engagement look like? Is this it? Is that it? What are you looking for? So, with that.
Honestly, Diane, it has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, your experience, your expertise on this topic. I know, like, I think that's especially your last answer to that question. I think it's helpful to kind of reframe your mindset and figure out, like, okay, why is working from home working for me? But how can working in the office also work for me in my career? And kind of like trying to find some positive within it as well. And then actually do a strategy for it's like at home days, our heads down work. And then in-person days we're collaborating, we're building this team together. So yeah, so again, just thank you so much for that. So we are at time. So I'm just going to quickly tell everybody or show everyone how they can access this recording later on. Yes. So as far as how to access the recording, after the event, we typically send emails to registrants as well and attendees about how to watch on demand. But if for whatever reason you missed that email or anything like that, all of these career coach workshops are found at the fortefoundation.org website under the programs and events tab. And then you go to professional development. And under professional development is a running list, again, of all of our on-demand presentations that we have, a variety of different topics. You just would have to log in with your affiliate account with Forte, and then you'll be able to access this program, which is awesome. As a final note, as far as upcoming things at Forte, if you are a recent MBA graduate, so like thinking of 0 to 3 years out of grad school, we do have an MBA Next online program that's starting next week. So if you are interested at all, have any questions, you can reach out to us at pro@fortefoundation.org. So one of our team will definitely chat with you about it, but it's a really cool community building program for those who are interested in it. But again, that's pretty much everything we have today. Thank you all again for being here today. Thank you again for Diane for presenting on this content. And with that, we hope you have a great rest of the day from Forte. We'll see you next time.
Bye.